What's up guys, Erroneous here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all the brand new champions coming to the game of Raid for February 2024, and it's going to be for the new patch that's coming up. So let's get into it. All right, y'all, so I'm extremely excited for this brand new patch that's coming out this week on Thursday. And that also, we're going to be having live the new fusion that's coming out, which is White Queen and Cora. Super excited to try to get that champion. Also, White King Narcissus is going to be an insane champ that comes to the game of Raid as well. They're going to be a crazy duo that could hopefully take out the craziest duo in the game, and that is Marichka and Taras. But we'll see when the time comes, right? It could be that they're just another couple of wet noodles again, like usual, but you never know. Maybe we get lucky and we can actually start fighting against that meta as, you know, low spenders or free-to-play players. That'd be kind of cool. So, February Champions 2024. We got a lot of crazy good champions coming to the great game of Raid, and we have this new type of faction thing coming out is called Faction Unity Champions. So they're going to be legendary champions, and they're going to be bringing out at least one Faction Unity champ for every single faction in the game. And hopefully they're good ones. Let's go ahead and read through all these champion kits. So White Queen and Cora, I've already read this one, so I actually made a video on this. So why don't you go ahead and check that video out. I'll try my best to leave it in the link description below. Yeah, so I'm not going to read White Queen and Cora. I already read her kit before. So we've got base form Star Sage Galather. Galather? Don't know how to say that name. But this is going to be a mythical champion coming to the High Elves. He looks pretty sick just from the picture itself, the avatar. So on his base form, Astral Storm. Wow, is that going to be similar to like Dark Fae? He does have sort of Dark Fae vibes going on, right? Really very similar to Dark Fae, but really, really cool looking champion. Attacks all enemies, fills the turn meter of all allies by 10%, also fills the turn meter of each ally by an extra 5% if they have an active buff placed on them by this champion. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. On the A2, removes all debuffs from all allies, then heals them by 25% of his max HP, also fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, and places a block debuffs buff on them for 2 turns. That's bonkers, and it goes down to a 3-turn cooldown if you get the mythical books for it. On his A3, revives all dead allies with 50% HP, 50% turn meter. Also places a perfect veil on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Oh my god. This is just the base form. What the heck? That's on a 4-turn cooldown too. That's ridiculous. Transform this champion. This is just a metamorph and then grants an extra turn on a 4-turn cooldown. Passive effect on his base form. Eternal Beyonder. This champion receives 5% less damage for each 100 resistance on this champion, and it stacks up to 25%. Holy moly, man. This guy's going to be insane for Hydra, insane everywhere in the game, insane for Arena, live Arena, but Hydra, he screams Hydra. Like you want to build him with resist. He also does scream Arena as well in live Arena, Tag Team Arena, and of course, just anywhere in the game, right? He's just a generalist. Increase ally resistance in all battle by 80 for an aura, which is insane. Active effect for his passive skill. Prevents this champion's death. Keeps him alive on 1 HP when hit by a fatal hit. Equalizes his HP. The HP levels of this champion will be brought up to the average HP level of the team. Wow. That, I mean, if that doesn't tell you power creep, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That's insane. That's just his base form. Let's go down here. Alternate form. I'm assuming he's going to be a damage dealer in his alternate form, but let's see. Attacks all enemies. Decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 10%. It's a support base form. Is the top one support? Yeah, it's also support. Decreases the turn meter of each enemy by an extra 5% if they're under a block active skills, decrease resistance, or a stun debuff placed by this champion. Jeez. Damage increase here on that ability. And ignore resistance, of course. Eclipse Ren on the A2. Attacks all enemies before attacking. Removes all buffs from all enemies. Oh my god, this is ridiculous. Then places a block active skills debuff for 2 turns. It's on a 3-turn cooldown if you book it out. This attack will not trigger counterattacks. Also insane. Dark Nebula. Places a 50% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns. Then places a decreased res debuff on all allies for 2 turns. And a stun debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. So he puts a decreased resistance on them for 2 turns and a stun debuff on them for 2 turns? Jesus. So he doesn't seem like a huge damage dealer based on his skills. He just places a lot of debuffs. I guess the only issue is polymorph. Yes, they are going to nerf polymorph, but will it be enough? I don't know if it's going to be enough if he's placing so many debuffs, which means so many chances for the enemy team to sheep you. So yeah, I think I would personally use this guy a lot in general progression. He's definitely going to be slotted into some live arena teams or arena teams in general, but I would definitely use him in Hydra for sure. And on his passive skill, Starlight Reflect increases this champion's accuracy equal to 75% of their resistance when placing debuffs or activating instant effects. Okay, interesting. So yeah, you're going to place debuffs on the Hydra heads. You're going to place debuffs on the enemy teams for, arena or the wave clearing content. So that's not a bad passive effect. It does have a 3-turn cooldown on it. And his active effect is if an enemy's accuracy is higher than this champion's resistance, has a 50% chance of transferring any fear, true fear, freeze, provoke, sleep, stun, or petrification back onto the attacker or the enemy when placing these debuffs on this champion. So yeah, this guy's got a lot going on in his kit. He's definitely insane. He's got a lot of turn meter manipulation going on. He's going to be crazy for anywhere, any location in the game. So awesome champion. This guy, Alaz the Sunbearer, looks super sick as well. I mean, they just kill it with the aesthetics, man. They just absolutely crush it with the aesthetics. Absolutely love that about Plarium. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of power creep, though, and Mythicals, again, are extremely difficult to get in this game. They have given us multiple ways of getting it because of Cursed City with the Remnants, as well as getting Primals from farming Live Arena, which you could get 4 a month, which is actually really slow in my opinion. I think they should boost that to 8 a month. That's just my personal opinion, but that's neither here nor there. So anyways, let's move on to this guy. His base form, Photon Axe. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Places an extra hit if the target's under a shield buff. Each hit will ignore shield buffs. Whew. Damn, that's a really strong A1. He's a defensive-based champion, so he's easy to keep alive. He's on the Barbarians. Not like they need more champions to begin with, but yes, they need to bring in Mythicals to the Barbarians faction as well. A2, Rolling Thunder. Attacks all enemies, but before attacking, places an increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Places an extra hit on targets with less than 50% HP after the first hit, so very similar ability to like a Hefrak. If the target's HP is equal to or higher than 50% after the first hit, destroys the target's max HP by 30% of the damage inflicted instead. Very strong. I think the only issue here with the destroying the max HP is that Marichka and Taras can restore their max HP. So that's a bit of a problem. It's a bit of a nuisance from them, right? I wish that they could get nerfed from that, but it is what it is. On the A3, Searing Glare. Places a provoke debuff on a target enemy for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted if the target has less than 50% HP. Also places a counterattack buff on all allies for 2 turns and block damage buff on all allies for 1 turn. What? Dude. I thought they weren't bringing in counterattack champions anymore. So this is going to be a full team counterattack, but it's also got block damage. Okay. If somebody gets this champ, they're slotting this over Helikath all day. Yikes. Provoke on an enemy and counterattack full team and block damage full team. And you can bring it down to a 3-turn cooldown. That's absurd. That is absolutely absurd. Wow. Obviously Metamorph, 4-turn cooldown. He also has a passive on his... This is just his base form, by the way. Increases this champion's defense by 5% each time they counterattack, stacks up to 100% and resets each round. And that carries over to his alternate form. His aura Increase ally defense in all battles by 35%. Dang. So his metamorph form, Bolt Quake, attacks all enemies, places an extra hit on enemies under HP burn. That's pretty cool. And it's HP. So his first form is defensive based. His second form is HP based. So you got to kind of pick and choose what you want to do. So his A2, Solar Flare. They're taking this from Dragon Ball or what? Solar Flare. Attacks all enemies. Brownie points to whoever knows who does Solar Flare from Dragon Ball Z. Attacks all enemies. Places an HP burn debuff for 2 turns. This debuff cannot be resisted by enemies under Stone Skin. Okay. So they're trying to bring some interesting synergies against champions or enemies that have Stone Skin. And this is very thought out. I think this is very well thought out in terms of the kit synergizing within himself. Of course, you could bring other HP burners and help him just do the damage to the Stone Skin. He instantly activates any HP burn debuffs on enemies under Stone Skin. Wow. So he brings in the HP burn, then instantly activates it with the same ability. Also places a True Fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. This guy's going to be broken strong if Polymorph is actually nerfed like Plarium likes to think that it's going to be nerfed. Like they think it's going to be a significant nerf, but a lot of players don't believe so. So he could end up being sheeped a lot as well. I mean, we'll see. Once Polymorph comes out with the nerf, we'll see what happens. On the A3, fully restores all allies destroyed max HP, heals all allies by 30% of his max HP, places a strengthen buff on, and increase resistance on all allies for 2 turns. This is redonkulous, man. Passive. Increases this champion's HP by 6 for every 1 defense they have when they're in their alternate form. Increases the chance of enemy skills not activating when under Fear, True Fear by 20%, while also under a HP burn debuff. Wow. Why doesn't it just say Fear, True Fear by 20%? It should just say Fear, True Fear, or HP burn by 20%. This is confusing right here. Will it also be by 20% with the HP burn, or will it be 100% if they have HP burn on them? That's the question because of the way it's worded. Increase ally defense in all battles by 35%. Jesus, that guy is insane. He's absolutely insane. So both those mythicals are going to be great if anybody gets their hands on them. High Mother Maude. Apparently it's called Maude, not Mode or Mod. I've already read her kit though, so I did read it in a previous video. So you definitely can check that out if you'd like. I'm not going to read it during this video. White King Narcissus. Yeah, so I did also read this guy's kit in a previous video. So we're going to go down to Acelin the Stalwart. Acelin. He's a legendary Bannerlord Spirit Defense type champion. On his A1, Hammer of Karok. Karok Castle, right? Attacks 1 enemy, 50% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. Will ignore 25% of the target's resistance if this champion is under a shield. Okay, that's really, really powerful because you can start off with a shield, right? Bolster set or a shield set, or put the types of gear that basically just instantly put a 15% shield on them every time they attack, like a blood shield, or just an artifact set, like a divine set. So divine speed or whatnot. And then it books out to a 75% chance, which is pretty crazy for a stun on the A1. Heals all allies on the A2 by a total value of all shields on all allies. That could be a huge heal potentially. Then removes all shields from all allies and attacks all enemies. The damage dealt by this attack is equal to the total value of the shields removed. Damage cannot exceed 1000% of this champion's defense. So if his defense, so you're going to want to build him with high defense, right? If you have 6,000 defense, 1,000% of his defense, I mean, if you think about it, that's a lot, right? So let's do that. Let's do some quick math here. 6,000 times 1,000%. 60,000 damage. That's not bad for damage. The total damage dealt by this attack is equal to the total value of shields removed. So if I did that math right, if my math's correct, 6,000 times 1,000%, yeah, that is 60,000 damage. That's not bad on a 3-turn cooldown. That's decent. That's killing most champions on the enemy team, especially if they don't have stone skin or if they don't have basically anything else like big shields and things like that. So that's on a 3-turn cooldown, not bad. On his A3, places a shield buff equal to 30% of this champion's HP on all allies for 2 turns, and a 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Okay. So you kind of want to, he's going to be a tough one to build up, right? Because you want HP, but you also want high defense. And it's going to be tough to get him with damage as well as stacking HP, defense, damage. Hopefully he doesn't need any accuracy. It'll be a lot easier to do so. It looks like, yeah, with the stun. Okay, so if you're not too concerned about the stun, then you can just build him with no accuracy. Although the stun is pretty massive, so I would recommend trying to build him with a stun, but I don't think it's necessary. So you can just forego the stun with any accuracy if you want. So his Bannerlord Unity. So this is the faction Unity skill. So he's going to be the first champion that's a legendary brought to the game that's got a faction Unity skill. So it's called Behold the Banner. So I already read this portion. So one faction ally instantly activates the skill whenever an ally is revived. Will not put the skill on cooldown. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. That is pretty sick. So if you have one faction ally on your team, say, for example, you bring in Rhonda. Rhonda's a big one. Rathalos. Rathalos is huge, especially in Hydra. So if you have Rathalos with him in Hydra or Rhonda with him in Arena, it instantly activates the skill whenever Rathalos is revived. And Rathalos, I've mentioned in previous videos, is just so squishy. You want to build him really high damage, but in Hydra, he gets knocked down a lot. So when he gets revived, he's going to place a big shield, 30% of his max HP, and an ally protection on Rathalos as well, which is huge, right? And then it won't put the skill on cooldown either, which is really cool. If there are multiple champions on the team with the skill, only one will activate. Yeah, that's really, really cool. I love that. 2 faction allies. Also places a block damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. So just on himself, it won't place it on the allies. And if there's 3 allies that are from the same faction, from Bannerlords, buffs placed by this skill cannot be removed. So that means if you're in Hydra and you're going up against that head of mischief and you're trying to tank, or you're just having troubles tanking because he's attacking other champions, if he makes it so that if you make it so that you have 3 Bannerlords with him, definitely Blade Master you're going to have. What other Bannerlords could you potentially use? I mean, some people are going to have Taras, some people are going to have Marichka, some people are going to use Quintus, Kaja you could use. Some people might potentially use other champs here as well, Raglan, you know. So yeah, there's multiple champs you could potentially use here in Hydra with him, or potentially in Arena. So yeah, I mean, that's not a bad skill whatsoever. I actually really like that about the faction Unity. It's definitely strong. Now I will say Kaja, Timit, and him will be very strong. What's broken about it is Kaja, Marichka, and Taras. That's the part that I'm a little concerned about, is because buffs placed by the skill when he places the shield and the ally protection on Marichka and Taras, they just won't ever die. They're going to be just a brick wall, and you'll not be able to do any damage to them. So that's the one issue I have with this guy's kit. But other than that, really, really strong. But again, they're going to bring in other champions over time that can handle Taras and Marichka. On the A3 or A4? A4. No, this is the passive. So on the passive, allies under shield buffs receive 10% less damage. That kind of ties into what I was just saying about Taras and Marichka. That's a little bit broken. If there are multiple champions on the team with this skill, only one will activate. And it's another Unity thing. Okay. Allies under, so one faction ally. Allies under shield buffs are immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, and petrification. That's ridiculous. Obviously, it's bonkers good for Hydra. This guy's going to be an absolute monster in Hydra. S tier. That's just my personal opinion. S tier. Some people might say just A tier, but I think he's going to be S tier in Hydra, especially with the True Fear blockage. The Head of Torment, you just need Rathalos. So Rathalos, him, will never, ever get fielded. Allies under shield buffs are immune. So that's for the Banner Lord specifically. I'm not sure if that also spreads to the rest of your team. I'm going to assume yes. And then with 2 faction allies, allies under ally protection buffs have a 20% chance of counterattacking when hit. Also insane with Rathalos. So this guy is going to be crazy if you can get him on your account and you have Rathalos. 3 faction allies. The value of all ally shield buffs are increased by 100% except shield buffs granted by artifacts. So unfortunately, artifact sets like the shield set, the divine sets, and the bolster set, this will not increase by 100%. But you can still put a bolster set and a shield set on them, on one of your champions if needed, and that way you have it initially, right? Especially for arena or live arena, that would be really nice, or even tag team. And you can put a bolster set on your support-based champions for Hydra too if needed, if you need to continuously heal up. And for his aura, increases ally defense in all battles by 25%, and increases ally HP in all battles by 15%, but it only applies to the Banner Lords for the secondary piece of that. So a very, very strong champion. Our first faction unity champion in the game, super strong. The last champion here is just a rare, not so great. You know, it's whatever, but I'll go through this quicker. He's a force, defense-based Sylvan Watcher champion, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit, 25% chance of placing a stun for 2 turns. It does book out to a 40% chance, which is actually very high for a rare. Each hit also has a 35% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 5%. That books out to a 50% chance. Again, very strong for a rare. If the target's under decreased speed debuff placed by this champion, decreases the target's turn meter by 10% instead. Very strong. Especially strong against the Spider. If you're early game or mid game and you don't really have a ton of turn meter manipulation, this is a strong rare to utilize. Get them up to level, rank 5, level 50 max. Shatter Knees on A2. Attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing a decreased speed for 2 turns. Book down to a 3 turn and 100% chance to land decreased speed is very strong. Also good for normal Hydra. Mustersmith. Places a 25% increased accuracy buff on all allies for 2 turns, then teams up with a random ally to attack an enemy. This is a crazy rare on a 4-turn cooldown. That's a really strong rare champion for the Sylvan Watchers. You could consider building this guy up to rank 6, level 60. If you're early mid-game and you need increased accuracy and you need decreased speed, plus a random ally attack is not bad on a 4-turn. Hammer Rhythm. Passive. 50% chance of granting an extra turn when this champion places a decreased speed debuff for 3 or more on 3 or more enemies with their Shatter Knees skill. Yeah, this guy is super strong. This is like an epic, basically, in a rare skin. So this is actually a really strong champion. I recommend building him for Sylvan Watchers. Definitely for normal Hydra if you need it, if you're struggling with normal Hydra. Anyways, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on all of these champions. Do you think that the Mythicals are broken? Do you like the new legendary for the faction unity? Do you think the faction unity is broken? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you on a video soon. Take care.